to introduce once again Melodie Schaffer. Melodie's first career was in biomedical engineering, designing dialysis equipment. Her second career was as a stay-at-home parent, raising her 3 kids. She has now carved out a career as an offshore racer. She raced her Class 40 boat Whiskey Jack in the inaugural Globe 40 race. It was 174 days on the ocean and 35,000 nautical miles through the extremes in weather, winds, and seas. She set 3 speed records in the race, including the overall record of 343 nautical miles in 24 hours. She brought Whiskey Jack to Toronto this summer to share offshore racing with others and to prepare the boat for the next Globe 40 race in 2025, when she will do another lap around the planet. She was honored this year with Sail Canada's Jerry Roof Offshore Award. Did I say that correctly? Roof?
Roofs.
Ralph?
Roofs.
Okay, thank you, yes. And she was a keynote speaker in New York for the Women of Inspiration event, where she was awarded the Women of Inspiration inaugural Women of Sports Award. Congratulations. That's amazing. Please give Melodie a warm Shellback welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. You usually have to double click. Select. Put the chair down. There you go.
Nothing.
Then you gotta pick what screen you. Okay, my luck, yeah. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much for having me back for a talk. I've been asked a few times to share more details about what it is really racing an offshore boat like this. So this is what today's talk is on. Here she is. Class 40 boats are very much like a dinghy. They're really light in the water. They're really fast. Here are the specs for the boat: 40-foot long, 14.5 feet wide, draft of 10 foot. She only weighs 4,500 kilograms. So it's really, really light, to be honest. The keel is fixed, but I do have ballast tanks on this boat. So I can put water into each side to help balance the boat out. She has twin rudders, and it is a fiberglass boat with a carbon mast and boom. But I'm actually really limited on how I use carbon in the boat. It's a class rule, keeps it. They're trying to keep the costs down, which is a bit surprising with what they cost now. Below deck, this is what she is. Really simple. There's no creature comforts in any way. The newer boats, the French guys, they don't even paint below deck. They don't want that extra weight of a gallon of paint, so it is just the fiberglass and resin. This is a bit more what it's like when I'm actually on the boat and racing. you can see I'm sitting on a sail bag, so my sails are in the cabin or on deck. I got one hand up, so it's obviously a little bit rough. I'm bracing myself. Off to the right side, you can see my galley, which is a jet boil. And that's it. That's as fancy as I get. And just above the jet boil is a porthole, and that's for my ballast tank, sir. So when you first step into the boat, you if you lift the floor up, there is all the valves for my ballast tanks. So I can put something down called a scoop, which you can see on the picture on the right, which is a tube that pops out the bottom of the boat with a hole. And if I face it forward, I'm going to bring water into the ballast tanks. And if I face it aft, that's how I drain the ballast tanks. And then I can choose the valves if I'm putting water in or draining, which side it's going to. And I have a pump that actually physically pushes the water into the tank. To empty the tank, it's got to be by gravity. Let me go back. Oh, no, we're good. So this is gives you a little bit more of an idea what she's like. You can see the two scoops here. They're actually sticking down at this moment. This you can see the keel on the 10-foot draft. I've got the twin rudders back here, and this little I've got an escape hatch here. And the reason you have that is if you ever lose your keel and the boat is upside down, you don't have to go out to the main companionway and swim up to the surface. You can come out that escape hatch and make your way out. Also, you can see on the right side here is my hydro generator, which is one of the ways I generate power. So I'll be speaking about that in a little bit. So here she is, just haul out. This is after my very first race. And the thing that's different, there are a few things that are different, but one thing that they really do with Class 40s, they minimize your through hull fittings. So I don't have a sink on my boat. I have water, I have a tap, I make water, and I have a bucket. I don't have a through hull fitting for a sink to go out. I have a drain for the head. My water maker water comes in through the sail drive. So the water that cools the engine gets, there's a line coming off of it, and that is the water that I use to make, turn my salinated water into desalinated water, and I drink from. And the water for the head is the same outlet is what my bilge water gets pumped out at. So I'm at the very back of the boat here in a very, very small space. And what I'm doing is an adjustment to the rams. So I have the twin rudders. I have one tiller on this boat, and you can see the rudder arms here. And I have two different autopilots. So pretty much everything on my boat is doubled up. And so I pick which autopilot I'm going to use. One's electrical, one's mechanical. And I have two, they're on this right, these are my rudder sensors. I have two rudder sensors. I pick which one I'm using. I have two controllers. And the boat is set up that I can use any controller, any ram, any rudder sensor, because if one system goes down, I have to be able to switch and go to the next one. The all-important head. My boat has one. Not all the boats have it. I think is just crazy. And you'll see there's a couple ropes here. Because it's doors on the side of you, you don't have a wall to lean against. You literally use the head holding on, one hand overhead and one hand to the rope as you're braced there. And then in the floor, you can see is where my batteries are and my switches. So that's something this winter I'm going to change because I don't like having the batteries in the bilge. But there's also a viewing port so I can see down into the keel. It's not going.
Just a minute, they have to turn.
So you're looking through that port?
Yeah, I'm looking through the port, seeing the dolphins, so we'll just get the music going.
That should play.
Again?
Yeah.
This happened last time too. We did a test before the talk, all was perfect. There's really lovely dramatic music that's like Disney moments, but these are the dolphins swimming underneath at the keel. Which to me, you have so many tough moments out there, but you have some really special ones too. I just love it. Okay, so let's get to sailing the boat and what it's like. It can be pretty intense and it's very, very wet at times. In the cockpit, I have 6 winches. And they're all active and being used. And sometimes I've got double sets of lines on the winches because I have so many ropes coming in. You can see behind me, I've got some sails stacked there. You want to have your weight aft in these boats to keep the bow out. And when the sails are on deck like this, when the water is coming over, they get wet with the water and they actually, it's positive because it helps to flatten the boat more. You're adding weight. My traveler is huge. And I've got a running backstay, so I have a backstay on each side. And you can see with the tiller, I've got, when you sail and race offshore, you always have emergency stuff ready to go. So I've got a knife here, I have one at the back, so if I ever have to cut a line or cut myself free, I am ready for that. I love my boat because my winches are all right there and I need them. My helming seat, Michael and Linda went out with me. It is like a club seat. You put your feet up. It's very relaxing. You've got the most gorgeous view looking forward. It's really, really sweet to sail. And the other thing you'll notice are the diesel tanks at the back. So my main tank's 88 liters. And then depending on the length of the leg, I will add in, I'll carry extra diesel that I'll transfer into the tank as needed. Gives you I guess the view as you're helming, and you can see I've got 6 instruments there that pivot. So each screen I have, preset to the numbers that I need to see. I have autopilot on each side, easily accessible, and my chart plotter in the middle here. So this is my life. I have 33 lines that feed into the cockpit. This is the normal state of what it is when I'm sailing this boat. I used to think it was stressful, now I love it. Yeah, and I'm coiling all the time. And you always make sure your main sheet, your spinnaker sheet, main halyard always have gently coiled and down below deck, so it's separate. You make sure your key lines are ready to blow if you need to. So here's a boat. So I have mainsail, J1, which is on the forestay here, which is a Genoa. It's furled. I have my smaller, it's called a J2 or a jib out, and then spinnaker. And if you look at the picture on the right, it is a square top sail. So it's really powerful. So at about 10 knots of wind, I have to put ballast in the boat or I start broaching, rounding up. And at 15 knots of wind, I put my first reef in. 18 to 20 knots, reef 2 goes in. So I reef really, really early because I have so much sail area. I am set up for reefs. These are my reefing lines at the back of the sail. I have 3 reefs always ready to go on my boat. So I have 3 sets at the back, 3 sets at the front. So when I'm out racing and you see, a squall coming, the trick I use is if my Windex is pointing at the squall, it's going to hit. And if I have any concern of that, you put a reef in, even if it's 5 knots of wind you're in, you never risk it. You don't know if the squall is going to be 20 knots or 40 knots. So I am forever putting in reefs and shaking out reefs. And I have 3 lines at the back, 3 at the front for the reefs. You have your traveler, you have to let out your main sheet, you have to let out to take the pressure off the sail. And your main halyard, it's 9 different lines that you have active every time you are putting a reef in. My head sails, I have a really neat system to manage it. So the fairlead here, the low friction ring, I've got my 2 sheets going through. So this is my J1 and J2 sheets, my jib sheets. And I can control it in, out, and down. So I can really be specific where the pull is on my head sail to optimize it. And the one on the right is just showing the clutches to manage this. When you're offshore racing, you have to have a storm sail. So the orange is that tiny little thing is a storm sail. I never really used it in the huge winds. I did use it on Lake 2 when I lost, 5 of 8 sails. Suddenly it became a sail I had to use. I've also used it in really light air, because when you put up a sail, a head sail, really light air, it's just flopping back and forth. And this sail, it's tiny, but it is so thick and so stiff, it just sits there. And I actually think it's an advantage, because it's not wafting in the little bits of wind. This is the start of leg 5. Paul came aboard, he and I worked on the boat on shore, and he became my co-skipper for the next leg. He sailed 300,000 miles before he raced with me. We had never sailed together until the start of the race, so we started here, and I'm explaining, my 33 lines coming in and everything for the boat to how we're going to be managing it. So I have a lot of sails. I had a lot more when I bought the boat. It's dwindled down over time. When you're racing, you have your main J1, J2, and your storm sail, and then you're allowed to have 4 other sails. So they're all spinnakers for me. I have 2 different systems. This is a furling spinnaker. So this is for reaching. This is more upwind. I would be using this. And the orange line here, I'm not using it at the moment, is the tack line. The other spinnaker I have is one with a sock. It is, I have I think a bit of an advantage. My bowsprit, where these spinnakers are mounted off of, I can angle. And so if I'm sailing really deep downwind, these boats aren't designed to go beyond about 150 true wind angle. If I'm sailing down really, really deep, I can turn my bowsprit to windward and I can trick it a bit. So the spinnaker is seeing more upwind than what I'm actually sailing. The sails are huge. You have to think we're managing this just with 2 people, which is why the spinnaker is either furl or it is with the sock. And I know furling, you can pull it in hand over hand with a furler. There's times when something's come up and you have to do it by grinding. To grind in my spinnakers, it's 300 grinds on the winch. So it's like 100 grinds, pause, catch your breath. Talk yourself into doing another 100 grinds and then 50, 25, 25, and you get through it, and it's a solid 5 minutes of work. On the left, you can see my teammate, it's either pulling up or down the spinnaker with the sock. So again, you hoist it up, it's in the sock, it's contained. You do that together, and then one of you, in this case, I am at the back of the boat, getting ready to start flying the spinnaker. So I've got, be setting the sheet and working. Even the boat, though the boat's only 40 feet, communication, especially in big winds, it's really hard. And so you can't do it verbally, and it's hand signals. So on the right side, you can see I've got my hand up. This is hold, so stop what you're doing. And then you have grind on as a signal, and then you have ease out. And it's really critical to make sure you're both doing what you need to be doing. So I took a little moment to think about what's involved in a tack or a drive. And these are the steps. It is not just trimming your main, push the tiller over, and you're good to go. So first I have to think about the water ballast and empty it or transfer it across. If this is for a drive, what I've written here is I'm going to open up my J1 sail, my Genoa, because I want to have my forestay protected so that I can't get a spinnaker wrap. If my J2, my jib is out, once the J1 is out, I've got to now furl the J2. I'm going to spin the boat down to about 170 degrees, so I take all the pressure off the sails. I'll take off the preventer on the main, which is what prevents a crash drive. I'll preset the jib sheets and spinnaker sheets. I'll prep my new backstay. I will, if I have my bowsprit at an angle, I've got to tack it over to the new angle. I've got to change the angle of the bowsprit before I do the jibe. I'm going to close the water ballast that I've just transferred. Center the traveler, tighten the main sheet, move my instruments to the new side, set the tiller over on the new side, ease off the old backstay as I crank on the new one, then I can jog. Then the tiller goes over, and you first focus on the spinnaker, then the main, and then the jib. Once the main is over, you let the traveler out right away, so you have steerage. You fine tune your spinnaker setting, your main setting, your jib setting, get the preventer on the main. Now, because it's with a spinnaker, I will furl my J1 sail and then unfurl my J2 sail. Because I try and have a double slot. I'll double check that I've got the water ballast right, transfer the hydro generator across, and then I go and move all of my sails and gear. So it is the whole process. The prep work is probably 10-15 minutes, and I can't cheat it. I absolutely cannot cheat it. If I don't transfer the water ballast over, I have it on the wrong side and I have no way to get it out. You have to do the steps in order. So this is, let's see how that works. This is setting up for a jibe. So my teammate has gone forward. You can do a jibe where you're just flying the spinnaker freehand the whole time. But because I kept having new teammates, I would put the sock down to just keep it safer. So I'm pulling the traveler across. Sorry, it's a bit glitchy. It's just Wi-Fi here. I'm setting up my new backstay. I'm going to move the tiller over so it's ready on the what will be the new high side. This is my J2, what will be the new sheet, which is now going on the winch that used to have the backstay on it. And I am easing off the working sheet of the jib, and we drive across. The first thing I do is I let the traveler down so I have steerage again and control of the boat. And I'm trimming in the jib here because it's out too far for me to be able to fly the spinnaker with it up. Adjusting the traveler a bit. And now we're about to, my teammate is pulling the sock up off the spinnaker, and I'm going to start trimming in the sheet of the spinnaker. And a little bit of steering, preventers going on, and we're good to go. Yeah, just wait here to wait for this one. Once the sails are done, I got to move everything across the boat. So the stack of sails that I have at the back of the boat or the side of the boat, I've got to move it across. So maybe the guys online can hear I had really dramatic Disney-like music as I was heaving this across. And then you are below deck and you're moving everything below deck across the boat. So on the left screen here, I am tucked in underneath the cockpit. We've jammed all our sails in. They essentially were on the high side there, and I'm going to move it across to the new high side. Generally, I end up crawling into the very back, and I'm pushing and kicking with my feet, and my teammate is pulling to get all the sails across. And then you move all your gear across. So this is at a shore stopover. It's very pristine and neat. Every piece of equipment I move across the boat every time I tack. So let's talk about navigating and what life is like with that, what you have to manage. So I have, this is AIS, Automatic Identification System. So I am the black boat. And you can see all the other boats around me and where their headings are. So this is how I know I'm clear with other boats. This was taken, it's in the English Channel. And my first teammate, the one that 6 weeks before the race turned to me and said, you know what, I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. I just went through a little bit of a life crisis moment and backed out of the race. This was like a week or two afterwards. And we're crossing the English Channel and he comes up on deck. It's nighttime. And I said, hey, listen, this is what's going on. There's 5 boats I'm watching right now. We're pretty close as far as our crossovers. Just keep an eye on the 5. And spinnaker's flying and it's nighttime. And he turned to me and he's like, do you really think we should be flying the spinnaker through all these freighters in the middle of the night on the English Channel? And I'm like, fine, we're fine. And sometimes it's like this is down off Brazil, these are all fishing boats. And I honestly saw this and I just dived away. It was the wrong way to go, but I thought there is not a hope that I'm gonna get through that fleet without running into someone's fishing line. We do carry paper charts, you have to legally. And you can see with my boat setup, it's not so easy to use, but I do look at them every single night because you see things on the paper charts you don't always see on the electronic ones, depending on the level you zoomed in at. The actual navigation, I have a software and I go and get weather files, they're called grid files, which are really simplified weather details. And you can see here, I've got roughly my course plotted and what my routing is. But it's not just the winds you're dealing with, you're also dealing with the currents. So this is off the bottom of Brazil, and it's like the Gulf Stream. The currents are it's crazy there. And you do your best to go with the current, and if you ever have to go and you're going to be crossing the current, you make sure it's perpendicular so it's as short and as efficient as possible. Again, you can see roughly my, I've put in a rough route here. And if you're just sailing, 5 days, you can put beginning and end, and your plotter will tell you everything to do. It'll give you the recommendations. When I'm sailing for 40 days, the wind, the readings, they're not accurate. It's only good for 2 to 5 days. So I have to roughly choose my routing that I'm going to be doing. And you look at, over here, we have the St. Helena High. So you have an area with very, very little wind. So you're going to try and avoid that. There is sort of a current, general current coming across here. So you try and capture that. So you have these rough approximations that you put in as a starting point for your routing. And then on the right side, I have all those numbers. I have all the stats about the boat, wind speed, boat speed, keeling angle, rider angle, and I collect it at 1 minute, 10 minutes, and 30 minutes. So when I go and trim the sails, I come and look and see if I'm sailing faster or not. And that blue section is called, it's the polars, and that's how optimally you're sailing. So in this case, I've actually made it worse. At 1 minute, I'm at 87% of optimal, and at 10 minutes, I was at 89%. So I'd wait a couple minutes and see, and then I'd be back on deck and undoing whatever trimming I've just done. You also get weather models like this. These little arrows, these feathers, each big line is 10 knots. So for much of that, we're looking at 40 knots of wind. And this is a predicted wind. And of course, winds can be, and waves can be 50% bigger than that. I can put in parameters to control what I'm going to be sailing in. And so there's a few lines here. There's it's red, it's really hard to see, blue, pink, and there's a black and a light blue. And those are different. I've put in different parameters. So I might say I want my maximum wind speed of 25 knots. I want my maximum wind speed of 28 knots or 30 knots. And it will give me different routing depending on what I have indicated. In this case, the more to the left I am, the more I am in the worst weather. So I can choose, depending on how the boat is sailing, to be a bit riskier and a bit and more in the storm, or I can choose to sort of go to the right and be a little bit safer. Sorry, this one's a bit blurry. One of the screens I have on deck shows a histogram for the wind. So the left side is the wind direction and the right side is the wind speed. And you can see how zigzaggy it is. The wind is all over the place. So if I'm flying a spinnaker and the wind is like this, it means I'm going to be on deck, the boat will be helming, I'm on deck playing the sheet the whole time, managing this really erratic wind. It's my sail chart. So the left side, this is degrees angle to the wind. This is wind speed. So these are all essentially my head sails, code 0, Genoa, jib, that would be my storm sail. And the right side are my spinnakers. So when I first got the boat, I really depended on this chart because I didn't know the sails and their angles to the wind. Now, it's implanted in my brain, but it's one of the ways to guide how you know which sail you should be using. Of course, I have radar. I don't use it that much because it uses a lot of power and I have to manage my power usage on the ocean. Also, I'll go 2 weeks without seeing a boat. So at nighttime, if it's foggy or I can't see the clouds coming in, I'll put the radar on to check for squalls. But I don't have the radar running continuously. I just use it as it is needed. So we can't, okay. So I'm just sharing what it's like below deck on the boat. You can see the screen and the routing. And then I'm going to show you, zoom in on the window and you can see the water pouring over the cabin top. And this is what it's like on deck. It is a little bit of Niagara Falls on my boat. Very rarely. I'm also sailing at night, so that's a whole other factor. You got the night sky to appreciate, but you have to do all your trimming of sails by flashlight. And so you're using headlamps and you're working out there and managing the moments in the pitch black. Here I'm doing a spinnaker up or down and got my headlamp on. You have to be so careful you don't mix it up with your halyards. You don't have a wrap or anything. And you always do an extra double check because it is, you don't want to have something go wrong at night. You can't see what's going on. My mast has these little strips there, the reflective strips. That shows my different reefing points for the mainsail. So if I'm putting a reef in at nighttime and I can't really see the sail properly, and sort of where I'm at, these reflective spots give me some idea where the main is and how close I am to my next reef. So they say at night you should be using red light to protect your eyes, and I don't. I use white light because if you look at the lines there on the left side, you can see all the different colors of my many lines coming in, and under the red light, the colors disappear and they all look the same. And again, the most important thing offshore is don't make a mistake. Below deck, we use red light though. And like very sensitive, sorry guys. So I went from nighttime to daytime. I have solar panels across the cabin top. I have 12 different panels. I bring in 600 watts of energy. I have all the controllers down below. And in fact, I bring in so much energy with the solar power that I actually don't have shore power. It is, I physically don't have an AC plug to my boat. It is only solar or hydro generator or running the engine. So the back of the boat here, you can see the 2 hydro generators here. So they're both up, I'm at shore here. And what happens is you drop it down, this rudder, you drop down, it's got a propeller on the back side that spins as you're going. And that generates power. So I bought 2 for the race. One was always not working. So same for everyone. So it meant every time I tacked the boat, I had to tack the hydro generator over to the new low side. And you can imagine it is little slider cars like for your mast on a track. You're hanging over the back of the boat, trying to line these little cars up. It's really, really not fun. There's a hydro generator. So I'm doing my transfer across. It often, in the weedier areas, you're checking because you're picking up all the weeds, same as with your rudders. And I actually have a device at the back of my boat. It's a rod with essentially an enormous, it's a looped wire, like a bobby pin shape, that I can slide down my rudder to clear the weeds off. And, but it's a tough job. Sometimes it's a hydro generator and I'm switching over at nighttime, and twice this happened to me. You go and you grab it and you lift it up and you pick it up with your hands, and there was a man of war on it. So it got wrapped all over my hands and it was horrible. But because we're racing, we have our engine, we obviously use it to get out to the start line, and then within an hour of the start of the race, you put a seal on your engine, you put it in neutral, you put this sealed tag on, And at the end of the race, an hour before the finish, they'll give you a code word. And you write it down on a piece of paper and take another picture to show you haven't broken the seal. But the seal is designed that if it's an emergency and you need to throw your engine on, it will break. So once I start the race and get going, I take my gear shifter out and I put it away below decks. I don't want to accidentally kick it and knock it into gear and then get a penalty applied because I've made a mistake. Oh, so I'm gonna skip this video because you guys cannot hear it, which is a shame. I can play it afterwards. I'll do that. It's pretty simple food on the boat. It is freeze-dried meals. This is my jet boil, and my little tap for water is just behind under the step, and I'm trying to get the container onto the stove to boil water to make a coffee or to make a meal. Every single activity on the boat takes such mental energy because it is just such rough conditions. So this is below deck. If I was to test you, I would say, am I out on the ocean racing? And anyone who's been out there races would say no, because you never sleep head first below deck. You always sleep foot first. So if you run into something, it's your feet that are going to hit the bulkhead, not your head. So this is what life is like below deck. You are this close to your teammate at all times. You don't sleep in the bunks because when the boat broaches, which it probably did 200 times around the world, I was sideways, you're much more likely to fall out. And when you're down here, if you have to run on deck, it's really quick. I don't have a heater in my boat. So, Diane, you asked about, do I dry? Not really. And the Southern Ocean and around Cape Horn, it was cold. Cape Horn, the water was 5 degrees. So the boat's not any warmer than that. And when our gear would get wet, we would put it on the engine. You know, you'd have the engine and run it as a generator. And then we would put our gear on top to dry out. No showers aboard. One of my teammates created this little, essentially it was a tube. And if I was going faster than 8 knots, it would be, you know, the Venturi effect was stronger than the head pressure, and you could have a little hose and shower off. But I don't make enough water. I don't talk about the fresh water. I make water on the boat. I have something called a Catadyne water desalinator. It makes 1 liter in 10 minutes. So it's enough for drinking water, but I don't have enough for anything else. Okay, so apologies to the guys on Zoom, so I'm going to speak over. This is 2 days before the race. These are all the projects ongoing. This was, you're only on shore for a few days or a week at a time, and it is constant projects, and you're making the most to get ready for your next leg. Maintenance is a big part of it, on the water and every time you come ashore. So those 6 winches I have in the cockpit, every single stopover, I'm doing maintenance on them. You're at the mast, checking your rig, checking, this is my forestay on the right side, and it's in place with a strop and a lashing, and so you're checking to make sure there aren't wear points with your lines. Because I'm out there for so long, sometimes I'm tacking, you know, a few hours, sometimes I'll be 3 days on a tack. And you're flying a spinnaker for that time. So every day, you know, every 10 hours or so, you're easing your halyards to make sure you don't get friction and wear points and wear your halyards out. Top of the mast is, it's a really, oh, I'll go back actually. Just behind me here, this is my next boat over, you can see the 2 wind instruments and the Windex at the top of the mast. One is vertical, one is horizontal. My horizontal wind instrument, I think I went through 5 of them around the world. They're $2,500 a piece. It is really expensive. In the end, I ended up with a batten and I fiberglassed it in place. I was really trying to figure out why, and then a couple of weeks ago I was at Heritage Night, and it was, the theme was speed. And I got asked to share a little bit, so I did, and I talked about my top speed of 28 knots, and but I was up against ice boats, C-class, and SailGP that are all so much faster. But at the end of the night, I thought about it, and I thought, you know, the SailGP, they hit 100 kilometers an hour, but they're doing it on flat water with their full team and near shore and ribs all around. And my top speed I hit in this boat was 28 knots, which is about 55 kilometers an hour. And I did that in the Southern Ocean and big waves at night, and you know, a week away from shore, and I'm hand steering with a tiller doing 55 kilometers an hour. So I actually understand why my wind instruments don't last, because the forces are extreme. Safety's big. And so one of the things they do is a stability test, that to make sure your boat will come up again if she's, if you go all the way over. And if you look here and you look at the tiller seat at the top, just by the yellow words there, 14 feet, it's a long way when you are sitting up there. There are so many times I had one arm under around the lifeline, and I had to sort of hand by hand monkey bar my way down to the low side to blow a line. So I brought with me, I'll show you after, some of the safety equipment I have to have. This is everything in my grab bag. That is one thing I never move on my boat. Everything else gets moved back and forth with the tacks. The grab bag stays in the exact same spot, because if I have to get off quick, I don't want to be thinking, where did I put it? This is my medical kit. It is, it's the blue bag over there. It's the size of a suitcase. I used to have a big rectangular one. I have to be able to handle anything when I'm out there. We have something called thermal protection suits. And I feel like, you know, a Teletubby in this. But this is what you're going to put on if you're going to be going into your life after the boat is sinking. And one of the tests they do is you have to be able to get into it within 2 minutes. So they did test us with that before the race. We were on the dock and literally blew a whistle, and you had to run to your boat, grab it, get into it, which is not easy. And that was one of the qualifications. So my boat is really set up for it's category 0, which means anywhere around the world, any conditions. The race is category 1. One of the things that makes it category 0 is I have different sections to the boat with watertight doors. So the very front here is the crash locker. And so the door actually is screwed in place there. But it means if I hit something with my bow, if I punch a huge hole, the water's not going to come into the boat. And then I have watertight doors. There's one here, there's one here that separates the main cabin out. There's one at the back. And then I have the escape hatch out the very back here. And I had a life raft on deck, and I had a life raft down here below deck, so that if the boat is upside down, I had a life raft that I could push out that escape hatch. If you remember that picture at the beginning when I was working with the rams with the wrench, the space is only this big, and you have to think you're going to be doing it wearing that big Teletubby suit and trying to push out the life raft. I think it's a bit of a Houdini act, but I'm sure when you're desperate, you'll make it happen. So I've learned offshore, there's things you just do differently. You really try to avoid the low side of the boat. You are never on the downwind side of the boat. If you have to go forward, it's always on the upwind side. And you think about any time you're going to go do something. If I'm doing it at night, I really try and wait till daylight, or I wait till my teammate is awake if I can, just in case, just in case. You don't want to have a moment like this, which looks much, much worse than what it is. I was fixing a little point at the bottom of the shroud and the wave came over. But you really take safety seriously. I have the life jacket here. You have your tether. I'm not always tethered, I'll be honest. I'm not always even with a life jacket. Generally I am. The tethering I will do at nighttime always. And when I go forward, sometimes I walk forward untethered and then I clip on. To me, it's safer. Every time you bend down to put your tether on, you're risking falling. You're not seeing the waves as they're coming. So it's a little bit of a choice, and I think a lot of the offshore guys, you won't even see them with a life jacket on. In my life jacket, I have a little pouch here, and I have two different control identifications. So one is my AIS that will, if I go overboard, it will send a signal to the satellite to bring rescue to me. And the other one is my man overboard signaler, which will alert the boat. So that's on my life jacket and part of me always. So on the left is my boat. Class 40s are an evolving class. So there are 200 of them. And number 158 was the first one with the design with the scow bow, which is so much faster. But when they run class 40 races, they run them all as equal, one division, one fleet, even though the scow bow boats are much, much quicker. So if you're watching class 40 racing, when you're competing in it, you sort of know, I know I'm competing against maybe 10 or 15 boats out of the 40, because I know it's just such a difference between them. The next around the world race, they're going to actually have a rating so that to balance out the different boats. So here's Whiskey Jack. I just told her out last week. She's at Outer Harbor Marina, and we took the keel off. And I've never dropped a keel, so that was a new process for me. We had to grind off. There's a little bit of fiberglass covering the bolts, holding it in place. There's the keel. There's the boat. Rudders are off. So all of that will get worked on over the winter. I have good music with this, but you won't see it, hear it. The mast, I took all the lines off the mast. I labeled it because there's so many holes and openings. And I have to take off the clear coat finish that is peeling and falling off. And so I've got to sand down the entire mast, and then we'll re-varnish it, re-clear coat it. I'm hoping to do that before Christmas. We'll see. And here she is, tucked in Outer Harbor Marina inside winter storage, which is lovely. Thanks to Ports Toronto, they've given me this space. And it means I have a warm, dry place to work on her to get ready for the next race. I knew when I finished the last race, I wanted to go and race again. And I brought the boat back to share with people about offshore racing and to bring the boat home. It's really, exciting for me. And to prepare. It means I don't have to be away for a year working on her and preparing for the next race. So I put up some contacts here, and I am gonna have Whiskey Jack at the boat show, and I'm gonna be giving talks there, which is great. And I am fundraising hard because it is not a cheap adventure doing anything like this. So the last race cost me $250,000 just on the boat. So not what the boat cost. That's what I spent replacing halyards, replacing sails, replacing all those wind instruments, paying for my data. My data cost was $25,000 just for data for the race. So I think the next race, I'm looking at $400,000 to just cover the cost for the boat because I need brand new sails. So fundraising hard. So if anyone has ideas or wants to donate to Wind Athletes, I really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
Wow. You want to stop sharing and while we do questions?
Do we have any questions or comments? Any questions or comments here? Ron?
Okay, I have a million questions, but maybe I'll just start with one or two. About the ballast system, you've got that thing that sticks down into the water. It looks like it would be a lot of turbulence. I thought maybe it would be more like a bailer.
I only put it down when I am filling the boat or emptying, and then I put it up.
I thought that was the case, but even so, you know how a bailer on a dinghy is sort of streamlined and sucks water out without impeding the
Well,
flow
this
too
is
much.
this is a tube, thing in my water bottle, and it's
Yeah.
got the opening, so I have it facing forward to fill up, and I have it facing aft to empty. I think the baler going forward, I'm sure it would snap off maybe.
If you could tip it forward to fill and back to drain,
Maybe,
I don't know.
there we go, it might be a little bit faster, every percent counts, honestly.
Yeah. I'm interested in those low friction rings. Looks like they serve the point of purpose of a fair lead, or a block.
Correct.
And the advantage is that they're low friction, I guess, but blocks are low friction. Is it because you can run more than one line through them at a time?
Yeah, you can do, and it depends on, you know, a block has to be orientated the right way. If it's on the deck, the line's gotta be running through, and the friction ring, you can sort of, it's a little more adjustable where the lines are feeding in.
Okay. I'll let other people go with questions.
Okay, we have Seamus online.
Okay, Seamus, go ahead.
Unmute yourself.
Is he muted?
I'm trying to get him.
Hi, sorry for the delay. Good afternoon, Skipper, host, and presenter Melody. What a fascinating presentation, and my compliments. And I am simply bowled over with your ability and skills to do so many things at once. Like you mentioned, 25 lines, and the conditions when the sea causes the vessel to roll always be on the upper, which makes sense, but I don't always think of sense. But to do this going around the world with the bare minimum of comforts, if I could put it that way, and your ability to master modern, I hate that word, master, to show your competence in with modern technology skills, combining it with your knowledge of the navigation. Like, I was just fascinated at how crowded the English Channel is with the variety of vessels and fishing lines. And I won't go on any longer, but I just want to say I have never ever seen a presentation like this before. I don't mean to be sexist or anything, but to me, it's wonderful to see a lady or a person like you do what you do. Congratulations and bon chance.
Definitely. Thank you, Seamus. Are there any other questions or comments here? Ron, one more?
Bill
If somebody's,
McNaughton?
say, $10 million and said, do what you want, or 20, whatever it would take, would you do a Vendée Globe instead of the Class 40?
Yeah,
Let's take this.
I got asked about the Vendée when I finished the last race, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. A little part of me, I wonder though, because they are so contained now. If you look at the boats, the skippers, they're barely outside. I mean, there when they have to change sails, but everything is below deck and you're contained. And I very much, I mean, I don't like being wet and cold, but I like being out and feeling it. And even when I'm helming, or even when I'm on deck and I'm playing the spinnaker, as much as I can, my hood is always down. I have to feel the wind. I have to see it. And I just with this latest Vendée, I wondered if I would like sailing where I'm sort of in a cave.
Yeah, they're in capsules now, really.
Yeah, very, very much so. There is, I'm wondering about doing a solo around the world race. So I'll do the Globe 40 race again. And there are a couple solo races coming up, which I'd love to do. My kids aren't so keen on that, so I have to balance it out with them, because they fully trust me and love what I'm doing, but I want to respect them, and we'll figure that one out one step at a time. So the new boats, when I had that picture up of the new Class 40 boats, I bought my boat used, and it was $250,000 US when I bought her. And a new class 40 is 800,000 euros. That's without anything, so it's $1 million for a class 40 boat, so they are beyond. They're well beyond my reach of ever owning one or having it or racing one. But now that they're starting to rate the boats, it will all level out.
Okay, we have a question from Paul online.
Paul, would you like to ask your question, please?
Yes, Melanie, thank you so much for this, and thank you for letting me get on your boat when you were in Toronto last time. What degree of heel is she happiest at?
10 to 20 degrees. So I always have, my boat has chimes, and again, the class has evolved. There are different designers of the hulls. Mine has chimes, so she sort of sits on her cheek, on her side, really, really nicely. And one of the, some of the numbers I have come in is how much the rudder is working and how much the boat is heeling. So as soon as the rudder is working more than like 4 degrees, it's time to go trim the sails and reduce the sail area because she's working too hard. And that's the same with the heel. When she gets too far over, I mean, she sits really nicely on her side. I've been over so many times, but she sails best 10 to 20 degrees.
Thank you.
Michael,
Melody, if you were thinking of doing solo, would you do it in Whiskey Jack or a different boat? And if you do it in Whiskey Jack, what changes would you have to make to do solo?
I don't think I have to change much solo versus not solo. I have to look at the spinnakers. You can't do a spinnaker with a sock solo. You can in like 10 knots of wind. You can't in 20 knots of wind. So I can't be at the bow and playing a line out. So my spinnakers would change. That's it. So this winter, the changes I'm making the boat, I'm going to lift my batteries so they're not in the bilge. So I don't think that's so safe if I ever get flooding. And there's a few, I'm going to change my ballast system, the valves, because they're hard to manage. And I've just gotten a new, but it's a bit silly. If you see the Bombay sailors, they have these really comfortable chairs, like what the truckers have with like suspension in it. And I just bought one. It's just made out of, not a big chair like that, but bungee cords. Because I sit on a bean bag, and when I'm wet, I'm sitting on a box because I don't want to make the bean bag wet. And when you're smashing through the waves, it's really hard on you. And so I think that it is, how do you take care of yourself a little bit more? Because you're making a lot of big decisions out there. And if you're tired and worn out, you're not going to make the right decision. So it's a little bit of creature comfort, I think.
I would say 100%.
My compliments on this first, the compliments on talk, amazing. My career was in science, was to go through neuroscience, wanting to know what thinking is. And watching your judgment and analysis of this whole process, it was amazing. My compliments on that, on your analysis and judgment. And I was wondering, have the wicked thought now of, I wonder if we could have a game of human versus AI in thinking challenges. I would hire you to represent the human race. My compliments again.
So can I answer that? So there is a virtual racing you can do for this race. It's on right now. Thank goodness they do it the year ahead, not while I'm on the water. Because when I'm out there racing, there's times my family's written me, "Mom, what are you doing?" I'm like, "The wind hole." I'm like waffling around. They're like, "Everyone's going." No, they're all going faster. But you do get so tired at the end of the race. I was so mentally. I was so tired on so many levels because I had built it up one skipper at a time when my first one backed out. So I was managing the whole race and all the shore and ordering sail, everything I did. And at the very end of the race, I was sitting on the step and the beanbag was just in front of me. My phone was there. And I thought, oh, I'm going to check if I've got any messages. And I stared at it, I'm sure for 5 minutes thinking, I'd like to pick my phone up and check. I was so tired. That action to bend down and pick it up was truly just about beyond me. So there are moments like that as well, right? They're very, very humble moments out there.
I'd just like to make a couple of comments here. First of all, I understand what you mean when you say that you have created a new career out of this kind of racing. Quite amazing. Secondly, somebody told me a story about sailing with you where you're asleep aloud. This other person is on the helm and something goes wrong. You feel it, you come up, you adjust the sails and you go back down to sleep. And that speaks to the brain and the whole body brain connection as well. I'd like to congratulate you on what you're doing. I think it's awesome. I can't imagine being there. Not only have you an amazing brain, but you have a body that can move like a mouse into small spaces to get to do what you need to do. So I thank you so much for being here today. And you know, you look at it in technical talk, it was fascinating, just fascinating. So our small token of appreciation, Melody, and we welcome you back anytime you want to come and talk to us again. Please give Melody a warm round of applause. That was truly awesome.
Bravo!
Bravo.